The most important impact of climate change are seen in the agricultural system, because I say the agriculture system is mainly rain-fed, and the farmers do not have enough capacity to adapt to the negative impact of climate variability and climate change. So with this very long decrease of rainfall during the 3 decades of drought, the capacities became of the farmers became more and more really low, and of course the capacities are also low, and so it means that the system himself, the productivity system, based on of course the action of the farmers, but also of the value chain of the markets, is not sufficiently enough organized and strong to help them to really recover from the drought system. But the second thing is that the water sector, because of course the scarcity of the water in rural areas, sometimes even in urban areas, really the water also for agriculture is a problem, and it increases the stress, water stress, and it's really impacting very negatively and harming the development of the countries, and even hinted very badly the GDP of the countries. We can also add on this, what we're seeing now quite every year is floodings, urban floodings, due to the increase of the frequency and also the intensity of the extreme rainfall due to climate change, and they of course are linked to the the absence of adapted infrastructure in the suburbs of the big cities in Africa, where the most poor people are living, and these people, in fact, they come for the most of them, they come from rural areas due to the rural areas, they come there as adaptation strategy. We can add also, of course, the fishery system. So the fishery system is very impacted by also the climate change, but this is much more difficult to show, because the impact of the policies are very important in that sector. There are kind of overfishing and many agreements signed by the governments with outside that really increase the pressure on the sector. But climate change, yes, is also impacting very badly that sector due to these heat waves that we are seeing in the system. In fact, all the regions of Africa are quite impacted, but will be also impacting in the future. But we can really say that the Saharan regions are maybe among the most vulnerable, I can say, in the world, because of what I say, more than 3 decades of decrease of rainfall and these lower capacities to adapt, and there's since maybe the end of 19th, this recovery, so more rainfall but extreme rainfall, and also other really harmful impacts of climate change in the city. So really Saharan regions to me are very impacted, but we can add also the coastal areas because of the sea level rise, and also these the storms, because we are seeing in the coastal areas, of course, because of also the management, the lack of good management of the coastal regions. These are the regions are very vulnerable to climate change. Society is already affected and will be affected through the socio-economic sectors. From agriculture, we see how agriculture is impacted by climate change and will be still active. So the food productivity, the value chain of the food system is affected and is very well affected, and also the water through the water sector. You know that Africa is one of the regions where you have less access to the water, and it's a region where you have a lot of water, many rivers going, etc. But this water sector is also very important for energy production, hydropower. But some years with when you have a drought, intra-seasonal drought, you will there sometimes some power shortages happening in some countries, and of course through the migration, this has been seen, as I say, at the end of the 18th, with this 2 decades of, or even in the third decade of the long silent drought, people has begun to migrate from one region to Africa to the coast to other regions, but also inside the countries, from urban areas from rural areas to urban areas. So we can add also, of course, the health system. Because as you know, the malaria is endemic. It means that it's occurring at any time in Africa, and but during the wet season, you have, of course, more malaria because of the increase and the increase of the water, the surface water everywhere, and development of ponds, etc. But of course, these are not happening at the same time. The maximum of malaria production is happening a few days after the maximum of rainfall. But what is happening is that there's also policies trying to mitigate or to fight malaria in the countries by distribution of the mosquito nets. But this is not enough to reach all the population, and malaria is still inside. And we are seeing more and more new vector-borne diseases like dengue, like also Rift Valley fever, and of course heat waves is something very new. We can think that in Africa people are used to live in hot area, in warm area, so they don't suffer from the heat. But this is not anymore the case. It happens now in many regions in Africa that every year more and more we saw heat waves, and this affect the elders and also the youth. And this is something that really the health sector is looking at it more and more. Yeah, Africa can mitigate the effect of climate change by developing sound adaptation strategies. And we have some endogenous adaptation strategies using some endogenous knowledge from, for example, in agriculture. The farmers have their own knowledge, and they know where the rainfall is supposed to begin and where it is going to end. But the problem with the endogenous knowledge is that we need to also add now this new thing that is climate change. It is, of course, they used to use that and they inherited from their father and grandfather. But now with the new climate change, they need to really contextualize it. So you need to have very good adaptation strategies for agriculture, and for that you need also to add new tools for early warning system. You need to have very good forecast, seasonal forecast, because we need to know exactly when good. We need to have a very good seasonal prediction for the beginning of the rainy season, the end of the rainy season, and even the distribution of the rainfall during the season, the seasonal variability, because this is very, very important for the food production. So this the science can bring knowledge that we can add and integrate with traditional knowledge to come with good adaptation strategies to develop agriculture and for the water sector, and also to mitigate the effects of the extreme events, as with heat waves. We can predict for events, so heat waves coming, it means that we can advertise people, and at least you can have some strategies to mitigate this. We can also for the floodings, if you have, of course, you need to develop some infrastructure, but they could not be enough. So sometimes also you need to have early warning systems so that people at least can leave places, or the policymakers can take a good decision. So this knowledge and early warning system can serve both the policymakers to know how to manage but also to the population. And I think the most and also the long term. There's also the long term adaptation. So the long term adaptation needs, of course, more knowledge in advance, and of course we know that the science is weak on that because of the model are giving very many divergent signals and information, and we need to also have very good strategy to really use that information so that to help for planning the future, because the planning is also a good way of adapting, having good policies to plan agriculture, to plan infrastructure, to plan everything. And in that planning you need to integrate really climate change information and of course climate change scenarios. Most realistic adaptation strategies, I think it's the of course to me this adaptation strategy has to be work for as we know for an equity and justice. It means that as we were saying, the farmers, for example, has lost a lot of practices, and they even leave their places to try to adapt by using the migration. But we know that migration can be an option, but it's not a very good option. So the most realistic is really to not just look at one strategy or one sector. If we want to adapt, we need to have some kind of intersectoral, meaning that you don't, if you want to adapt to, for example, the fisheries sector, if you just look at fisheries sector, you are doing something that is not very good, because you will be introducing some other problems in other sectors. So there has to be intersectoral to be efficient. And as I say, to be efficient, also you need to have very long-term plans. Of course, people will want to know. We want to have solution for the climate change we are living, but we know that it's very difficult. Just okay, you can adapt to the effect of the climate, today climate, but the solution you are bringing there will not be enough and efficient for the future climate change. So for being efficient, you need also to look at the long term and integrate the short term and the long term. So we have some information doing for the science, but you need also to go but you need also to have the funding. For Africa, you need the funding, and the funding are not every time available in the budget of the countries. So in the mechanism, the financial mechanisms that are at the international level, so really we need to find out how to, of course, fund this the strategies, these intersectoral strategies, and I was saying that we need really to help back up many sectors in the region. For example, the farmers has to be helped by some programs, internal program, social protection programs, because we don't have it in Africa, or insurance for agriculture, or insurance to protect the livelihoods, the houses, etc. So if you put in place those things, and also for the health system, you need also some social protection. So this money can come from the countries, but it will not enough. So you need to have a good mechanism at international level to fund this mechanism, and come with sound solution and sustainable.